That analogy, I think, applies to entrepreneurship. Number one is we should be teaching children at the earliest age that it's possible to create something of value in business. That, whether it's a candy stand, a lemonade stand, selling something, or a small business, etc. But even if they don't succeed, they will appreciate how difficult it is to do that. Yeah, it's one of the things I observed early on when I stopped actually being an entrepreneur and then started teaching entrepreneurship was a couple of my friends, who knew me as an entrepreneur would laugh. They said, "Steve, you can't teach entrepreneurship, like you got to be born an entrepreneur." And I was kind of confused because I was teaching entrepreneurship, but I didn't really have, they were right. I really didn't have a theory about why was it that I thought you could teach, this endeavor to others. And so I started looking at what were some parallels to what I really believed was an art and a craft, rather than, that is, being a founder. And we're talking about being a founder or a part of a founding team. It is not like being an accountant, right? It's, where there's a set of rules and day-to-day things, you know what to do, etc. Entrepreneurship and founders are closer to artists, as you said. And what I meant by that, you know, artists see things that other people don't. Musicians hear things, and composers hear things that, other people don't. Authors can envision a novel, and, it's basically, for all of them, the art of creation of that art is simply getting out that passion and writing it down and putting it in place. Or a painter is exactly that. In fact, the best story is, when someone went to Michelangelo's studio in the 1500s and they saw a 12-foot block of marble, and they said, "What's that?" And Michelangelo was reported to say, "Well, that's the most beautiful sculpture in the world." And they said, "It's a 12-foot block of marble." And he said, "Come back in 3 years." And they came back in 3 years, and the 12-foot block of marble had been transformed into something called the Pieta, which, if you've seen it in Rome, is the most, beautiful sculpture in the world. And they said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "I just removed the stone around it." Well, that's what founders do. They remove the stone around their vision, removing all these obstacles they see at a time. And so if you think about how do artists get trained, I started thinking about what did we learn how to train artists. Well, starting in the Renaissance, we realized that the best way to train artists was, first of all, apprenticeship. That is, you would sit at the feet of a master, and you would start to do things, right? Yes, you would learn some theory, but you would actually get hands-on in practice. But in the 19th century, we also learned that in addition to apprenticeship, we could teach art to the earliest possible ages to children in kindergarten, or when they were 5 or 6, they would teach, finger painting, and then they would teach storytelling, and then they would teach, how to make sculptures out of clay and whatever, such that we didn't expect all those young students to actually become artists. Some of them would realize, "Oh my gosh, I have a passion for this. This could be a career." But the others would appreciate how hard it was to actually make something of value. That analogy, I think, applies to entrepreneurship. Number one is we should be teaching children at the earliest age that it's possible to create something of value in business. That, whether it's a candy stand, a lemonade stand, selling something, or a small business, etc. But even if they don't succeed, they will appreciate how difficult it is to do that. And we should be creating classes that both have early stage entrepreneurial education as well as apprenticeships. Does that make sense? It's a long story about entrepreneurship, and training founders are like training artists.